Boys will be boys, Mom said with a dismissive smile as I cradled my throbbing hand against my chest. Marcus had just slammed it in the door, on purpose, and grinned when he heard the sickening crack. Stop being so dramatic, Thomas. Your brother's just playing, she added, as if that explained the pain shooting up my arm. My name is Thomas Chin. I was 17, sitting on our couch trying not to throw up from the pain while my parents watched their golden child torment me for what felt like the 100th time. But this time was different. This time I could see bone. I think it's broken, I whispered through gritted teeth. I need to go to the hospital. Dad didn't even glance up from his paper. What do you need a hospital for? Just ice it. Marcus didn't mean it. Marcus, 19 and built like a tank, leaned casually in the doorway, that smug smile still on his face. Come on, little bro. We were just wrestling. Wrestling. That's what they always called it. When he shoved me down the stairs. When he held me under in the pool until I blacked out. When he accidentally knocked me into walls or twisted my arm too far. I looked at my hand, bent wrong, blood already soaking through my sleeve. Mom, please, I said, my voice shaking. I can see the bone. She finally glanced over. Her expression shifted for a second, surprise maybe, before settling into mild annoyance, as if I'd spilled juice on the rug. Oh dear, I suppose we should have it looked at. Marcus, would you drive him to the clinic? No, I said quickly, panic rising in my chest. The last time he'd driven me after hurting me, I'd slammed into the dashboard twice during his accidental hard stops. I'll call a ride. Or an ambulance. Don't be ridiculous, Dad snapped, finally lowering his paper. Your brother offered to take you. Don't make a scene. I looked at Marcus. His smirk had returned, and that familiar gleam in his eye said he wasn't finished with me yet. I stepped back toward the door, pulled out my phone, and with my good hand dialed. I'm calling 911. The room went still. Marcus's smile vanished. Mom paled. Dad stood so fast his chair toppled backward. You will do no such thing, he barked. No ambulances. No police. This stays in the family. But I was already speaking to the dispatcher. I need an ambulance, I said, voice clear. My brother broke my hand. I can see the bone. Mom lunged for the phone. I dodged easily. I'd been practicing that for years. He's confused, she shouted. It was just an accident. 1542 Oak Street, I continued. Please hurry. I don't feel safe. Those last words changed everything. Mom froze mid-step. Dad's anger turned into alarm. Marcus, for the first time ever, looked unsure. I backed out the front door, still on the line where neighbors could see me. My family followed, hovering, watching the houses around us as curtains shifted and doors opened. Thomas, sweetheart, Mom said, suddenly syrupy. You're overreacting. We can drive you. Let's just calm down. But I could already hear sirens. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel helpless. Felt powerful. The ambulance pulled up first, then a police cruiser. A paramedic knelt beside me, examining my hand. His face turned grim. This wasn't an accident, he muttered to himself. An officer approached Marcus, who stood silent for once, no clever lies ready. We'll meet you at the hospital, Mom called out desperately. But the doors were already closing behind me, and for the first time I was free of them. What I didn't know then was that this was just the beginning. At the hospital, Dr. Sarah Miller examined my x-rays. Her expression darkened as she flipped through scan after scan. Then she turned to me, her voice calm but serious. Thomas, I need you to be honest. These x-rays show several healed fractures, and your file lists 6 accidents this year alone. This isn't normal. And with that, the truth began to unravel, for all of us. I stared at my bandaged hand, avoiding her eyes. The usual excuses. I fell, it was an accident, we were just playing, rose up instinctively, ready to protect the people who never protected me. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the pain meds dulling my fear. Or maybe I was just done lying. My brother, I said quietly. Marcus. He likes to hurt me. He always has. Dr. Miller didn't look surprised. She nodded slowly, like she'd just confirmed something she already knew. And your parents? She asked. They say I'm too sensitive. That it's normal. Just brothers being brothers. The words tasted bitter. She turned the screen toward me, pointing at the x-rays. Thomas, look here. These are defensive fractures. Your arms tried to protect your head. These are blunt force impacts. And this, she tapped the most recent image of my hand. This was done deliberately. None of this is normal. Before I could reply, I heard a voice in the hallway. That sweet, sugary tone my mom always used on teachers and doctors. We're his parents. Course we can see him. It was just a little accident. Dr. Miller's expression hardened. Excuse me a moment, she said, standing up and walking into the hallway, firmly shutting the door behind her. Through the small window, I watched her face off with my parents. Her posture was steel. Her voice, though calm, was unmistakably firm. I've contacted Child Protective Services, I heard her say. Given the pattern of injuries and Thomas's statement, I'm legally obligated to report this. This is ridiculous, my mother snapped. We're good parents. Tell her, Thomas. Dr. Miller didn't move. Mr. and Mrs. Chin, she said, your son has more documented injuries than most trauma patients in their 70s. Until CPS evaluates the situation, you will not be left alone with him. You'll lose your license for this, my father roared. Dr. Miller didn't even flinch. Go ahead. But first, explain why your 17-year-old son has multiple untreated fractures, concussions, and bruises in various stages of healing. Silence. Where's Marcus? I asked, suddenly realizing my brother wasn't with them. The police are questioning him, my mom said, her voice starting to tremble. Thomas, please. Tell them this is all a misunderstanding. Your brother loves you. We love you. But Dr. Miller had already pulled out her phone and turned it toward them. These are photos documenting Thomas's injuries over the past year. Pattern is clear. The only misunderstanding is believing this could continue without consequences. Just then a new voice entered. Professional, composed. Andrea Torres. CPS, the woman said. Through the glass, I watched as my parents' faces shifted. Anger, fear, and then desperation. We didn't know, my mom cried. They were just roughhousing. Boys do that. Mrs. Chin, Torres said, her tone velvet-wrapped steel. There's nothing normal about concussions, defensive fractures, and prolonged psychological trauma disguised as sibling play. We're arranging temporary placement for Thomas's safety. You can't take our son, my dad choked out. Dr. Miller stepped in again. You lost that right the moment you stood by and let your eldest son systematically destroy your youngest. A police officer approached, his face grim. We've completed our interview with Marcus Chin. Based on the evidence and Thomas's statement, we're placing Marcus under arrest for assault and battery. My mother screamed. My father started shouting about family loyalty and misunderstandings. But for the first time, none of that noise shook me. 'Cause for once, someone saw me. Really saw me. And they didn't look away. Dr. Miller returned, gently closing the door behind her. Thomas, she said softly, I know this is a lot, but you're safe now. And we're going to make sure it stays that way. I looked at my hand, bandaged, broken, healing. Then at the x-rays, which exposed years of buried pain. What happens now? Yes. She gave a small, kind smile. Now, you start healing. Your hand, your heart, all of it. And this time, no one gets to tell you it doesn't hurt. Through the window, I watched my parents being led away. Mom sobbing, Dad red with rage. But their emotions were no longer my responsibility. I didn't need to protect them. I didn't need to pretend. A tear slid down my cheek, and Dr. Miller handed me a tissue. I wasn't crying from pain, not even from fear. I was crying from relief. 6 months later, I stood outside the courthouse, my newly healed hand clutching a thick folder of medical records. Marcus's trial was about to begin. This time I would tell my story publicly. Living with Aunt Claire had shown me what love without conditions looked like. No walking on eggshells. No fear. No dismissing pain as just playing. Now the truth was mine to tell. And for once, everyone was going to listen. She helped me find a therapist, supported my decision to press charges, and most importantly, she believed me. "You ready?" Aunt Claire asked gently, her hand resting on my shoulder. Behind us stood Dr. Miller and Ms. Torres from CPS. Both women, once strangers, had become unexpected allies in my journey toward justice. I nodded, straightening my tie. I wasn't the same boy who had walked into the ER broken and afraid. The months since had changed me. I was stronger now, physically and emotionally. Regular meals, peaceful nights, and a home without fear had done more for me than years under my parents' roof ever had. Inside the courtroom, I spotted my parents sitting behind Marcus. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, playing the grieving mother to perfection. Dad sat stiffly, jaw clenched in silent rage. Marcus wore a crisp suit, polished shoes, nothing like the brother who had terrorized me for years. When I took the stand, their lawyer tried to spin the narrative. "Isn't it true brothers often roughhouse?" he asked with a smirk. I held his gaze. Roughhousing doesn't cause multiple fractures. It doesn't send someone to the ER over and over. What Marcus did wasn't play. It was calculated abuse. And my parents allowed it. The prosecutor presented years of medical records. Dr. Miller testified about the clear pattern of injuries, defensive wounds, deliberate force, old fractures never treated. School nurses described unexplained bruises. Teachers recalled how I flinched whenever Marcus walked near. Then came the security footage. Video after video played, my brother hurting me. My parents watching, doing nothing. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. Marcus's lawyer made one final attempt. "Wasn't your brother just trying to toughen you up? Prepare you for the real world?" I leaned forward, my voice steady and strong. The real world doesn't excuse assault. It doesn't reward cruelty. Marcus didn't prepare me for life. He taught me how to survive abuse. The verdict came quickly, guilty. On all counts. For the first time, Marcus looked afraid. As officers led him away, Mom broke down sobbing. Dad still refused to look at me. But I wasn't finished. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed as reporters gathered. Aunt Claire stood beside me, her hand steady on my shoulder. "Today isn't just about my brother's actions," I told them. "It's about ending the cycle of abuse that hides behind phrases like, boys will be boys and sibling rivalry. That's why I'm launching a foundation to help teenagers trapped in abusive homes." Dr. Miller stepped forward. The medical community often misses signs of sibling abuse because families hide it so well. Thomas's foundation will train professionals to spot the patterns and act. Ms. Torres announced that CPS would partner with us, developing new protocols for identifying and responding to sibling abuse. My story was becoming something bigger than me. 1 year later, I stood at a podium addressing a room full of medical professionals, social workers, and survivors. My foundation had already helped dozens of teens escape unsafe homes. Our training programs were now standard in hospitals across the state. Marcus was serving his sentence. My parents had lost custody. And I was thriving under Aunt Claire's guardianship. The nightmares had mostly stopped. I didn't flinch at sudden movements anymore. "Sometimes," I told the audience, "the bravest thing you can do is admit that what's happening isn't normal, and it's not your fault. Sometimes you have to break family silence to save yourself." After the speech, Dr. Miller approached me with a smile. "Remember that scared kid in the ER? Look at you now." I smiled back, touching the faint scar on my hand, a quiet reminder of the night everything changed. "Thank you for being the first person who really saw me." She shook her head. "No, Thomas. Thank you. You spoke up, and helped build a system that will protect others like you. That evening, as Aunt Claire drove us home, I thought about how far I'd come from the night I called 911. My brother had broken my hand, but not my spirit. My parents had tried to silence me, but only gave me a louder voice. Our hotline now rang constantly, every call a chance to help another teenager realize that family loyalty shouldn't mean accepting abuse. Each success story reminded me, sometimes the worst moments in life lead to the most meaningful change. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving and helping others do the same. And that was the best revenge of all.